Everyone, let's quickly wrap up May. May was a good month. I managed to upload my weekly check-in vlogs regularly, and I also uploaded a single review for I Shall Wear Midnight, the next book in my Discworld reread and the only physical book I read in May. So let's talk about it. I Shall Wear Midnight is the fourth book in the Tiffany Aching series. I would not recommend starting here. Start with the first book of the Tiffany Aching series. You don't have to have read all the other 37 other Discworld novels that are out, but you should be aware of Tiffany Aching and her story, because her story continues on. We started off when she was a little child, now she's a teenager, and everybody around her is starting to look into getting married and starting a family, and she's busy witching. She's back in her hometown. Her sort of boyfriend, the Baron's son that she kept hanging around with, and he was her best friend because they both were outsiders in the village. They kind of clung together and they had a good relationship, but he's gotten himself a fiance now, and she's busy taking care of other people, taking care of everything. And on top of all of that, the Baron dies. So she is being accused of killing the Baron, because all of a sudden everybody starts thinking witches are bad. There's a common idea that developed that witches aren't good, that they are evil, and it's spreading. So Tiffany has to fight that, while she also has to deal with the fact that her friend is getting married to someone else. And also there is the problem of the fiancé being like the super perfect picture book princess, but she's not really happy with that and is actually jealous of Tiffany because of her friendship to the Baron's son. I highly enjoyed the Tiffany Aching series. If you are interested in something more of the background of witching and on the Discworld, if you are interested in a lighter read in the sense of the writing is for younger people, so it's more for young adult, the target audience, and the writing, it's still challenging. It is still deep and dark, and it's hilariously funny. Terry Pratchett has his way of writing, he has a way with words, and the Tiffany Aching series actually feels more modern and easier to get into than the earlier books. So if you haven't tried it out, go for the first book in the series, don't start here. Let's go through the rest of the books in the order I wrote them down on my note sheet. So let's start with The Blazing World. This is literary fiction and it challenged me a lot. I really took a long time to read it, mostly because I was trying to read it at night and it was challenging non-fiction style narration. The book is all about Harriet Burden, an artist who had died. And Harriet was never very successful, and she blames it on the fact that she's a woman and that people don't take art by women as serious as they take it by men. So she has the idea that if her own art was presented by male artists, it would be received much better. So she comes up with the idea to find fronts that present her art as their art, and all of a sudden the art is more acclaimed and accomplished than before. But that's not the only thing that the book is tackling. The book is tackling also reports from friends, interviews from friends and family, and also many excerpts from Harriet's diaries and the ideas she had. It's a very interesting book. It's looking very much at the art world and the position of women in it, but also outside of the role that women are allocated and the places we get to inhabit and what that does to some women, or basically all, but some feel it harder, like Harriet. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the way it was written, even though the non-fiction style of writing made it harder for me to follow. I noticed that I'm having a much easier time listening to non-fiction than reading it, but that's a personal problem. So you might enjoy reading it much more than I did and find it much easier to access. I also really enjoyed how, since we're hearing many different voices, how the author managed to give each a different voice. So I could really easily see in the narration or in the part which person is talking, especially if we heard more often from them. And I love that. So I highly recommend it if you want to have a fictional introduction and access to the idea of women not being regarded the same in the art world. Why are they vacuuming now? I hope you can't hear the vacuum upstairs. Let's switch to an audiobook, The Spellshop. This was very light fantasy, fun to read, with in a world that is not overly detailed explained, but it seems very fluffy on the one side, and on the other side, magic is only allowed for the rich and the empire. So the emperor is like, no, you cannot use magic. And we have a librarian who is guarding the books in the library, which are also magic books, but not everybody is allowed to read them. But then there is a revolution, and the librarian takes a lot of books and flees back to the island where she grew up. She left very, very young with her family, but she doesn't know where else to go. And she's always very afraid of people discovering that she has magic books. But she also feels the village and the people need help, and she needs to make money. So she starts using the spell books, and it's fantastic. It is a very fast, easy listen, I found. It's very captivating. You fall in love with the characters, with the village very easily and very fast. And you also really enjoy the interactions between the librarian and a young man that she meets there that she knew from childhood but forgot about, and the relationship that blossoms between those two is also hilarious. It's, like I said, it's very lighthearted, and I don't know if it's cozy fantasy. I'm a little on the verge with this term. A lot of people don't like it, a lot of people overuse it, but it's not too dramatic that it will really stress you out, and I like that. Something not so cozy is The Sword of Kaigen, and this has been on my wish list way too long. I picked it up and I fell in love with it. The writing is captivating. The story starts off with meeting a few boys who are on their way to school, which is on top of a mountain, so they're hiking up a mountain, and we immediately introduced to a new boy coming to school who is an outsider, and he has different knowledge. We learn that the people in the village are very excluded from the rest of the empire and the country. They get different news, they get different information, because their main job is to protect the empire against the outside. And there are some different ideas why that is, and I really loved how the book addressed that the people in the village have their honor, they have their pride, but they also don't have all the information. And the emperor is afraid that if they have all the information, how the outside looks and how the reality actually is outside their village, with outsiders who's fighting, who's not fighting, then they might not do their job as well. We also see how the village is very traditional in many ways, especially in the role of the women, and that gets to be challenged, and I love this. We see both perspectives, one of the mother and one of her son. The mother has been in the outside world, so she has different education, and she comes into this marriage by being married into it as it being a very traditional family, and she never really felt happy and loved in that relationship. She felt herself in that role of being a housewife and a mother, and her job was to give children, and boys especially, to bear heirs for this family so that they can protect the empire. And her son is very skilled and also very important, but he's learning from the outsider kid that he meets in the beginning that things are a little bit different, so he challenges all his beliefs. And that is also really well dealt with, how we are stuck in our beliefs and how challenging and difficult it is to challenge what we believe and actually change in more information and adapt it and accept it as something that is possible. I highly recommend this if you love fantasy, if you love the mix between traditional and modern worlds, the ideas of challenging what you believe, and it takes twists and turns that I didn't see coming, and I loved it. There's also a lot of fighting, but it is really well done, captivating. I was never bored once while listening to it. More fantasy. The Rainfall Market is a very quick listen, probably also a very quick read. It's the story of a magic market appearing, and I fell in for the idea of changing your life for something else. And it is that and it's not that. So the Rainfall Market appears and you need to be invited to it. And when you go there, you can get a new life. You can exchange the life you have for another life. And we're following a young girl or a teenage girl who is very unhappy with her life. I must admit, I never really saw what was so dramatic and bad about her life. I mean, yes, it wasn't a happy life and it was challenging, but it sounded worse when she talked about it than what it actually was. I actually at some point thought I missed what the bad part is in her life, but no, that was just that. And she gets a golden ticket, so she can choose multiple lives, or she can see multiple lives before she has to choose. Normally you go with your ticket, you get to exchange the one time and you cannot look at the life before. But she has a golden ticket, so she can preview the lives that she chooses. And we see her going through like, oh, I think I want this life. And then they go and search for a little orb that contains that life. And then she looks at it, is like, that's not what I wanted. So I really liked that aspect. I also like the grander aspect of the magic. She spends a few days in that world, meets a lot of people, makes friends, and it is captivating. It is fun, but it is very superficial. It's not diving deep into what it means to have a good life, what it means to have a bad life, what actually this world is. So there were a lot more options to go deeper into the fantasy, into the meaning of the life, and into the message. It's superficially there, but not very well explored, let's say it like that. But it was a fun, fast read. Or listen, one more real fantasy, and that's where I hit a wall of thinking I've listened and read too much of the same. The Last Fee Hunter is probably a lot better than I experienced it, because it was the story of a fee hunter. I don't know why he's called the last. There are still others, but I think the idea is that after him there won't be any more new fee hunters. And a fee hunter is basically someone who hunts demon or hungry ghosts that are roaming the forests and the wilderness and eating people. And so in the villages, there is also the idea of a rural area and the city area being more modern, the rural area believing more in magic than the city folk, things like that. It's scratch that, it's not really explored. We don't get too detailed world building, and I missed that a little bit. I think the monsters, the demons, the second world, he can move into a different world, the magic world, and there he could see different things. I think that could have been explored more. We could have gone more into the hunting, into the exploration of what it means that the demons are there and what the change in the society with the magic disappearing, or the belief in the magic disappearing while the magic is still there because the Fee are still eating people. And all of that, I think, could have been explored more, but it's not. It's very superficial, it's fun, but some of the things where I thought would be dramatic were just like, okay, we've done that now. And I thought that was the end goal, the end game, but it happened in the middle. So yeah, the shifting was more to a romantic plot line that I would have been okay with a side romance, but it turned into the main thing and it wasn't well done in a lot of places. The fee hunter in the beginning in a village meets a woman who needs to see the witch where he's going to. So she convinces him to take him along, even though he's reluctant in the beginning. And you can already tell after that there's going to be feelings involved. And it's awkward for a lot of times. The whole thing is full of misunderstandings and people not talking and people lying. And yeah, I'm not really sure of what's going to be. And I honestly was not buying into that. It kind of took the enjoyment of the book out of it for me. And that's where I thought I need to read something else than fantasy with subplots, with romantic subplots and side plots, and where the focus gets more and more on the romance and less on the fantasy. I think a lot of the books are currently riding that wave of having too much romance. So the love interest and the banter and whatever, I like that. But I also like if the main part of the story is still the fantasy, if the fantasy is well developed, if we get a lot of good characters and world building. But yeah, I think I've read too much of the mediocre kind, which are entertaining, which are well done, they do their job well. This is not a bad book. It's just I've read too much of that to really feel excited about it. So I switched it up and went to some Literary fiction, because that's where you go. It turns out to be a little bit strange literary fiction. One's Company is about a woman descending into madness. We follow her through a very strange time in 3 parts. The first part is all about her past, how she got where she is now, and how she wins an indecent amount of money in the lottery and uses all that money to escape reality. So the woman experienced some really dramatic trauma, and she's always convinced, or people convince her, that they are the problem in life, that they ruin your ideas and dreams, and people always take the joy out of her life. So after something dramatic happens, for 5 years, she's basically lost to herself and lost inside the 70s show Three's Company. She knows it by heart, she loves the characters, she really wants to live in there. So naturally, when she wins a lot of money, she thinks, I'm going to build that town and live as the characters. And for some reason, she can pull it off. So she buys a mountaintop where there's a house and a lot of free area where she gets people to build this. And that's all the first part. The second part is her moving into this world and escaping reality with all her setups and the money that she has, that she doesn't have to talk to the outside world anymore and can just pretend to be one of the characters for a year, and then she starts over living as another character. It's interesting in the way that she realizes it. So we already see that even though she's deeply traumatized, that she is dealing with grief and all the other things in her life that are going wrong, and she thinks the money is the solution, and she goes and organizes all of that. It's amazing how she can do that and pull it off. So she is not stupid and dumb and completely incapable of existing, but we see her in the second part being as the escapee, and how it is good and not good for her. A lot of things happen in the second part that would be spoilery, but the third part is where she really lost control over her dream and is blaming others again. And we see how it doesn't end so well for her and where that goes. And I loved the writing in this. I really thought it was clever writing. The way the stories are told is very cleverly done. The ideas are super imaginative, and it was captivating. And even though it's a bonkers idea, it's just so fascinating to see and play out that I love that. So highly recommend if you're into some strange books about going insane. The last 2 books I need to talk about are nonfiction. One is Meditations for Mortals, and I flew through that book. It's nothing spectacularly new. I've seen a lot of reviews and people talk about that book before, and I always was like, I don't know if I want to read it or not, but having oversaturated myself on fantasy, I went for nonfiction and listened to this. I think I listened to it in 2 days or so. It's very fast, very easy. It's designed to have 28 chapters with a lesson, very short lesson for every day, and I'm currently listening to it day by day. So seeing how it works differently if you don't binge it, but take it slowly. And the idea is basically that you will never catch up on all the things you want to do. There will never be enough time. There will always be more things that you want to do. And it's the same idea and similar vein as 4,000 Weeks, which is the other book by the author that I've listened to and enjoyed. And it's also the idea of doing things in a manageable way, doing things imperfectly, which goes more in the line of Lena Norm's Half-Assed, which I listened to, I think last year when it came out. And it's the idea of getting a lot of things done, but not going insane with that, and getting the things done you want to do, and appreciating what you get done and what you do, and realizing that there are just way too many things that you can do. I don't think it's something spectacularly new and adds to the conversation in a way of things that you haven't heard before, but I also think that, especially in productivity and self-improvement, hearing the same ideas over and over again helps you internalize them and realize, oh yeah, I'm already doing that. I like that. The idea of a done list every now and again keeps coming back to me, and he talked about that as well, to see, like, write down what you do all day and you feel more achieved than with the to-do list where you cross out what you have done and then you are left with nothing, or 15 tasks that you didn't do. And the idea of a done list is to make you feel good about yourself. And I've done that before. And I liked to be reminded of something that I've already implemented and am doing so that I feel like I'm making progress. For that part, I really love the book. Unlike the last book I want to talk about, A Field Guide to Getting Lost was not what I had hoped it would be. I hoped it would be an idea of how you can use getting lost to get yourself out of a funk, or how you can interpret getting lost in a way, or feeling lost, what that means for you, and how you can look from it from different perspectives or things. But what I got instead were essays from the author's life on varying topics of being lost and things that you can lose, like identity, or your home, your house, and extinction of different species and things like that. Or how loss shows up in our life. And for me, I found it hard to listen to it. The voice did not work for me. It was too monotonous and too difficult to follow. So please check out the audiobook before getting it. And maybe the book in reading is better for you. And I also thought it was very undirectional. It was a lot of right, left turns, going here, going there, following her ideas. And I could never really figure out what she wanted to say with each essay. So for me, the book did not work, mostly because it wasn't what I wanted. And I found it hard to focus on the narration. So the book might work much better for you. And especially if you don't go into it expecting something different than what it is. And that's all the books I read in May. I had a good month overall. I really enjoyed the time I had for reading, and I enjoyed the books that I got to read. And I also appreciate that it gave me a sign to switch genres a little bit. So let me know how your May was. Did you read good books? Did you read bad books? What genre are you currently prioritizing or finding yourself going to when you look for something that gives you comfort? Let me know in comments, and thank you for watching.